So key to this matchup is going to be that Garbodor with Garbotoxin, the interaction with tool cards. Cal is definitely going to want to get the Blastoise down and find those. I think he plays 2 Startling Megaphone.
Yeah, it looks like 2 Startling Megaphone with the
and the Dowsing too.
Dowsing machine.
The Dowsing is huge. Looking at Cal's opening hand, we do have the Skyla to go get Beach. We have an Ultra Ball, so this hand actually looks pretty solid. But wow, very good opening hand from Ed though. We have double Trubbish, triple Yveltal down, attachment, bicycle, and a pass. So Cal has a bunch of options here. Can Ultra Ball away some pieces. A little bit unfortunate that we have this many pieces of the Blastoise evolution in line. You want to thin this hand down as much as you can. You can attach this energy to the Keldeo, and then set up the Beach with that Skyla.
He also may want to go try to find a second Squirtle. I don't think he's going to have the resources to it, but he's kind of is vulnerable to that Lysander play, taking out the lone Squirtle.
I don't think you have access to it just because you'd have to go get... I guess you could Skyla for like a level ball or something, but you need to draw cards out of this hand. So you definitely need to go for... I would imagine you go for a Beach off this Skyla.
Yeah, Skyla for a Beach does seem like the best play.
Yeah, would love to get another Squirtle down, but I think you kind of just hope. I think Ed only has, what, like 4 cards in hand, so it's not super likely that there's a Lysander in there. And he'd also still need an energy, too, so you'd need 2 of those cards to be Lysander energy. But you're kind of just hoping, if you're Cal. I don't think there's really a better way to do it. Because you can't Dowsing Machine and Ultra Ball. You don't have enough cards to do that. I wonder if Cal's going to Dowsing Machine away the 2 energies just to hold this Ultra Ball and thin out the hand that much more, but you can't play the Ultra Ball, so...
Right, and using that Dowsing Machine means that he has 1 less out to the Startling Megaphone down the line.
And I was just literally about to ask about that. Oh, no!
Yeah, there's that Lysander.
There's the play we were just talking about. Down goes Squirtle. Not much else from Ed, but you don't really need much else in that scenario. But Cal did at least get 2 Squirtles off the Beach, so going to have, it'll be a turn behind at this point, but you at least get the 2 Squirtles down. You have the Tropical Beach, you have an energy attachment for a turn, and there's no Garbodor in play, but there's still, there's really no need for it to be in play right away anyway. There still isn't a Blastoise in play. It does take away the Keldeo Russian option, but doesn't seem like it's super needed immediately. Rip Turtle. Yes, Stellar, if you won, a 1-2 would have been in cut for sure. Yes, losing record make top 4. Would have been, yeah, unfortunately we did only have 3 rounds of Swiss today. I think we had some folks who were unable to get the cards in time, and a little bit unfortunate there. And I'm actually looking at this this hand for Calmat, and there's a Max Potion in there.
Yeah, that Max Potion is pretty big, because you can go Max Potion the active to fully heal it off, and then attack with the other one.
Yeah, people need to ask for cards in advance for sure. But yeah, that Max Potion, we don't see that in Blastoise decks very often. I don't recall seeing that. Was that popular at the time? I don't remember that being popular.
It wasn't super popular, but it was seen as a one-of occasionally.
Well, it seems great in this matchup because Yveltal most likely is going to be 2-shotting you before you pile a ton of energy on a Keldeo. It seems really good in this matchup even as well. Stellar, this is Matt. Tyson was stuck at work and wouldn't be here until like the end of the tournament. So our friend Matt is taking over for him. Matt's not feeling particularly well, so just thankful that we have someone else here who could tag in, and super appreciate him tagging in. And it just so happens that he has a ton of knowledge and experience with this format specifically. So we are very, very fortunate to have him here. So appreciation for Matt in the chat. But Yeah, and I think this Yveltal gets the KO here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 140, 1, 6. Yeah, this is doing 180 with that Yveltal. So this Keldeo is about to go down. We get the Float Stone onto a Trubbish. Do we see the Garbotoxin? We do not. And Cal at least is holding on to an N and has the Blastoise in play. Without the ability lock, we're not as worried. Does top deck a Colress with an N, definitely want to disrupt Ed's hand a little bit more.
Ideally, he's going to want to start attacking with the Black Kyurem EX here, because you want to be discarding those energies off of the Pokemon, so you're not getting the damage boost from Yveltal EX.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You actually, I don't know, it's kind of tough because you still have, like, you don't have the one-hit KO potential, but you do get two-shot from Y-Cyclone still. But yeah, I definitely want to prioritize attacking with the Kyurem if you can to mitigate the Evo Ball damage, but Cal's hand doesn't really support that. Gonna have to go in with the Secret Sword. You do at least take the KO, and you did just N. So, seems like you could still be in an okay position if this Keldeo does not go down. And we take a Megaphone off the prizes. That's huge.
Yeah, that is pretty big. He's definitely going to be trying to play that Megaphone in the next turn and then find a way to accelerate more energies.
We do have the Catcher as well. Could try to target down like the Yveltal, or maybe even take out the Jirachi if you want to just chase down some prizes. Depending on how the rest of the turn looks for Ed, who does at least establish that Garbotoxin lock. So that's really important to turn off the Deluge from Blastoise. But we know that Cal is just holding on to this startling Megaphone. But Evil Ball hits for 120 plus the 10 from poison damage. And Cal's hand is stacked. And
yeah, this is a really good hand.
I almost wonder if there was a world where, maybe it's not here, maybe it's the next turn, where you like sacrifice a Trubbish and Beach if you're Ed. I think it has to be next turn though, because at least this turn you put out some pressure. And Cal going in with the Black Kyurem EX here. We'll get the KO, just has that with the Superior Energy Retrieval, which is so good in this stack. You get 4 energy back from the discard pile, and you can just slam them all down right onto your attackers. And the Megaphone off the prizes was huge, allowing this play to even happen.
Oh yeah, for sure. And especially leaving him with the Professor Juniper in hand for next turn, allowing him to hopefully find more energies or Superior Energy Retrieval to be able to continue on.
Right, not necessarily relying on these prizes to be good cards. Does get another Kyurem, has that Electrode. Not able to get the Voltorb down. We see a Sableye come down and a Beach. Yeah. No Gust actively.
Top deck's the N is pretty good.
Do you N yourself to 2 here, though?
Probably not, actually, because you do need to find at least 2 energies to get a knockout here.
Yeah, and you could also just go for the Catcher. If you get Catcher heads, like, you could check this Catcher, discard some cards to get the energy back with that Superior, but if you get this heads on Catcher, I mean, the game's just over.
Yeah, I feel like you should have played that first.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because, you know, if you do hit that heads, it's guaranteed. But okay, it's the heads, and that's the game.
Skill difference, hits the heads on Catcher. Yes, Catcher was eroded at this point, so it was a coin flip, and Black Ballista will take game 1 for Cal. Ed was whiffing some of those KOs, forced to take 2 shots where Cal was taking 1 shot, and that was the way to catch up in the game.
Yeah, that's kind of how the matchup just kind of goes in general, because once you do have the Black Ballista set up, it's very difficult for the Yveltal player to take a one-hit knockout.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, I guess the way that this deck wants to, from Yveltal's standpoint, you want to get that Garbotoxin established and your opponent to a low hand size. Hope they don't hit those Starling Megaphones. You know, you definitely want to try to ability lock them and end them. It's kind of a classic combo. So that's what Ed's approach is going to be this time. You know, put out a little bit more pressure in the early game, if possible, and then set up a Garbotoxin, and that's a pretty good start.
Yeah, I mean, pretty ideal, except for maybe the Jirachi and the active.
Want to get a Trubbish down. We don't get that. I think you're kind of okay to not get it this soon in the game, at least, since you, you know, you still have to wait for the Squirtles to get rare candied into Blastoise, so you don't necessarily need to get a Garbodor established on the next turn, but ideally you'd want to find a Trubbish very soon. Cal actually checking the prize cards here. Love to see that. Taking this very seriously. I appreciate it. So gets the Squirtle down off that level ball. That's great. Now the Squirtle in the active, though, I think you have to retreat so it doesn't just go. I guess it doesn't go down because you have the beach to get rid of the Verbank. So
He can also rush in with the Keldeo.
yeah, if I don't want this to get knocked out to poison, we're going to play that beach, obviously. So that takes away the immediate poison damage, but. And all of this without a supporter played, so you can go grab that heavy ball with the Skyla. And just going to hold this for next turn, I have to imagine. That guarantees you the Blastoise. You already have the rare candy in hand, so your hand is stacked for next turn. And then beach for 4.
Right, it not only guarantees the Blastoise, but in the fact that he drew it off the tropical beach, he could instead use the heavy ball for a Black Ballista, Black Kyurem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Heavy Ball has great synergy in this deck since there are a lot of 3 retreat Pokemon in the Blastoise and the Kyurem that are, you know, very essential to your deck. So I think it's just a one-of usually in most lists, but just another trainer card that you don't have to discard. It's kind of just like you play it and get your Blastoise. It's not like an Ultra Ball. It doesn't really cost you anything. Stellar has a great question. Which do you guys prefer, Bling or Era appropriate? Playing the art of the card that matches the format here, like playing a black and white Ultra Ball, for example. I know what your answer is probably gonna be, Matt, but I'll let you answer.
Mine is 100% you play the era appropriate cards.
Same. I am right there with you. But Stellar says Bling unless Bling somehow looks meh. So I guess it depends on if it's TCGO or in person. For IRL, I much prefer era accurate cards, and I want them all to be like matching because the aesthetic, you know, the borders are different. So I do not like Gold Scrapper. Gold Scrapper is yucky. So yeah, when you can reasonably get the era appropriate cards, I much prefer those for sure. But if it's on TCGO and, you know, it's kind of hard to get some of the older prints of cards, then I think it's okay to use whatever you have access to. Like, I'm not going to judge anyone for, as long as you're able to play in my events. I don't care what arts you use, but can't draw on these cards though. That's true. I have for those of you in the chat and watching on YouTube, I have a little project that I've been working on to get my Greninja deck from the Breakthrough to Crimson format signed by all of my friends. I want every card in the deck to be signed by a friend. So I've been collecting signatures at regionals that I've gone to this year. And yes, you cannot get your TCGO cards signed by friends, unfortunately. IRL era appropriation probably because Bling is more expensive IRL, so might as well make them match. Yeah, exactly. Like, the thing is, Bling is so cheap on TCGO that, like, why not? Sign the computer screen, yeah. Well, we do see the KO from Ed with that Evil Ball going down to 4 prizes, and we did get a Trubbish with a Float Stone down, so pretty good setup here. And there's an Yveltal charged and ready on the bench as well. And wow, Cal, thanks for the bonk. Hello, Ryan. Appreciate the bonk. Yes,
This
Cal
hand
did
does
win
seem
game
a little
one.
restrictive just because he has both of those Starling Megaphones in the hand. He had to discard one off the Superior. So he's definitely not going to want to play this Juniper when he lose his second one.
He might be lining up for it though at this Super Rod. Maybe because you don't really want to put this energy back into the deck. Interesting. I guess it's okay because you're discarding the energy with the Black Ballista here. So I guess this means you're more likely to draw energies out of the deck, but you still have enough in the discard pile to keep that Superior Retrieval active, which I guess is fine. And also there was a Keldeo prize, so maybe really wanting to get a Keldeo down. But yeah, like you said, not being able to Juniper this hand away since there was the other Megaphone in hand. We do still at least have the Dowsing Machine available at some point, but you don't really want to go down both of your startling Megaphones this early in the game before there's even a Garb in sight.
Right. Essentially, you want to use your startling Megaphones the turn you're going to get a knockout. So since that, you know, he kind of used one this turn to get a knockout, it doesn't really matter that he lost one, but he just can't really lose another one, or else he would be in a bad spot.
Right, and now at least you have the option to use one and then Dowsing Machine for the other one to take your last 2 knockouts. So, gets the Oblivion Yveltal down, Oblivion Wing. This could be pretty good to for some odd prizes at some point. You could even take out that Squirtle on the bench at some point just to get some cheeky prizes. Doesn't really benefit your prize trade, but also probably just wanting to thin it out and then draw more off that Colress, which is definitely very logical. And we see the Y Cyclone moving the DCE back to the bench Yveltal. So this catcher flip could be pretty huge too. I guess we do have to discard it to the Superior Energy Retrieval, so yeah, scratch that.
Still prioritizing that startling Megaphone. It seems like he'll save the rest of this hand. Then next turn, if he does play down the Garbodor, we'll go for the Megaphone and then play the Juniper next turn.
Makes a ton of sense. Definitely preserve the resources. You don't need to play this this Juniper or the Megaphone, and especially if you're going to get End to 2, you'd much rather have both of those cards in your deck off a potential N. So definitely a very heads-up play to just kind of hold this hand for a while. And you're kind of almost playing possum, right? Because you haven't played a supporter in 2 turns, and maybe Ed is thinking like, oh, you don't have anything in hand. Maybe I don't need to N you. You obviously always want to take the chance to N to 2 if you can, but it is kind of just a funny little, you know, potentially playing a little bit of possum there. And just preserving those resources. Meanwhile, Ed is just going all in on this bench Yveltal. And do we have an N? There's also no Garbotoxin still. And that's been kind of a trend of this Yveltal deck as we've seen throughout this event, that it's just been kind of clunky, not drawing supporters when you need them. And
right, so I think that's game right there with the Superior, because he has to have 6 energy onto his Keldeo, and that'll get a knockout. So with that Superior, it should
I didn't even think about that. Keldeo, you know, Keldeo hitting with a lot of energy on it can really, really hit hard. And as you said, this is going to be 170 perfect math, and still didn't even have to play the Juniper. I think Cal is calculating. Yeah, Keldeo does kind of hit hard. And Cal will take the series 2-0 and move on to the finals with Keldeo, Blastoise, Black Kyurem.